Well, President Trump's immigration agenda has hit another judicial roadblock. A federal judge in California blocked part of the president's executive order to cut funding to so-called sanctuary cities, those that do not cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. The judge found that counties and cities could suffer immediate irreparable harm if the policy took effect. Well, the White House is firing back. This just coming into us minutes ago. The rule of law suffered another blow as an unelected judge unilaterally rewrote immigration policy for our nation. Well, with me now to dig a little deeper, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson and Republican consultant John Thomas. Gentlemen, as I like to call you, the wise men, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank
you. John, to start with you, judging by that statement and, the strong words there, the White House saying that he's an unelected judge unilaterally rewriting immigration policy. The administration clearly stung by this blow.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. I mean, this is yet another example of basically activist judges trying to thwart the will of the administration. By the way, I don't think Reince Priebus mentioned that the judge is another Obama appointee. And you've got to be frustrated if you're the White House. You're trying to get policy done, and the court system keeps striking you down. I suspect the Trump administration will take it as high as they have to go, Supreme Court if necessary, to try to get rights. But they did leave the judge left the window open a little bit to certain kinds of federal grants. So there might still be slightly less, but still pain that the administration can inflict on sanctuary cities.
This point you made that it's an Obama appointee is one we keep hearing from Republicans and critics of judges who've ruled against this administration, making the assertion that judges can't be impartial, that judges aren't following the law, that they are letting politics invade the courtroom.
That is the assertion, and I do believe that judges can be political. And yes, that's the assertion I'm making.
Well, but I think it's also largely emblematic of like what Donald Trump previously said with another judge, the so-called judge statement, right? And I think it minimizes an equal branch of government, right? The judiciary is an equal branch of government to the executive and the legislative branch. And so, look, I think this does represent a high-profile blow for the Trump administration. This is a president who hasn't been able to execute a legislative agenda through Congress. Everything that he's sort of done is through executive order. He failed with the travel ban, and now he's failing with the sanctuary cities.
You know, the rest of that statement from the White House read, today's ruling undermines faith in our legal system and raises serious questions about circuit shopping. But isn't the White House itself undermining faith in the legal system? And doesn't this have ramifications down the line for how the public sees the judiciary, John?
Well, it does, but you're forced with a tough trade-off if you're the Trump administration. You have to drive your agenda, and if you think the judge is overreaching, you have no choice but to say it's overreaching. So the judge really stepped forward and now are forcing the hand of the Trump administration. It's not the other way around.
All right, I want you to listen to what the LA City Mayor Eric Garcetti said in response to a similar statement from Reince Priebus, basically saying that the Ninth Circuit is going bananas. Listen to what the LA City Mayor had to say.
This was not the Ninth Circuit going bananas. This is the words of Chief Justice Roberts being echoed back that the 10th Amendment is something sacred, and you can't put a fiscal gun to the head of cities and threaten to take out our tax dollars because you don't like the way we do our business.
I mean, John, isn't this a dangerous road to be going down, as you said, holding a fiscal gun to the head of, city authorities in this manner? Isn't it a dangerous precedent to basically say, we'll punish you if you don't follow our lead?
I don't know necessarily. I mean, I think it's dangerous they're not enforcing the federal immigration laws, so it's their fault that they broke the rules. And now you're blaming the federal government for potentially trying to enforce the rules. I just don't think that's fair. It'd be a lot easier if Eric Garcetti would actually help enforce the immigration laws that are on the books.
Look, Donald Trump is trying to leapfrog the Constitution. It is the legislative branch, at least last time I checked, that controls the purse strings over the federal budget. So it's up to the legislative branch to execute these kinds of funding matters. It has nothing to do with the president who can actually determine these elements. And so I think that's the larger question. He's not only trying to leapfrog the Constitution, but he's getting ahead of Congress.
Yeah. Let's move on away from the sanctuary city issue and talk about yet another blow to this administration, talking about the wall. President Trump, as we know, during campaign season said Mexico is going to pay for it, then kind of made a pivot and said Congress needs to make a down payment for it. As we all know, the hope was that, at least from the administration, that they would get some funding from the spending bill that has to be signed to avoid a government shutdown. We're now hearing that there will not be funding for the wall in that bill. Is this a climb down? Is this the administration backing down, John?
Backing down today. I think they're going to regroup. Look, Congress can't agree on what to have for breakfast in the morning, you know, and the Trump administration recognizes they don't want to let the government be shut down over a wall that they can regroup and get back to later. So they have to agree on what they can do today. And the Trump administration has made it clear that they'll just circle back. It's the same thing with the health care. They went in early, which was a mistake because they didn't have consensus. Instead of, they should have regrouped from the start and built a coalition to strike later. I think the American people understand that. Democracy is messy. Legislation is messy. And you get what you can while you can get it. And the wall is just not in the cards today.
Well, the president said, don't let the fake media tell you that I've changed my position on the wall. It will get built and help stop drugs, human trafficking, etc. Dave, this wall may get built, but what are the chances that Congress is going to give the money to build it?
Right, or what are the chances that Mexico is going to pay for it? Because that was like largely the platform that Donald Trump.
Off the table
that's off the table, right? But I think, look, I think Congress called Donald Trump's bluff, right? He had this massive sort of ultimatum for repeal and replace Obamacare. He said, look, either you guys, Congress, congressional Republicans, either you guys repeal and replace Obamacare, or I'm just going to let it stay in place. And now what are we doing? 3-4 weeks later, we're negotiating repeal and replace Obamacare amongst the Republicans. So they called his bluff. They knew that that ultimatum wasn't necessarily real. Pivot and fast forward to the budget negotiations when it comes to the wall. Same thing's happening. Donald Trump blinked. And they know that they can get whatever they want out of him because he's not going to stand his ground.
Talk radio host, conservative talk radio host Rush Limbaugh is not happy one
no,
bit.
he's not, no.
Take a listen to what he had to say.
It looks like President Trump is caving on his demand for a measly $1 billion in the budget for his wall on the border with Mexico. The Democrats are threatening a government shutdown. It's the same old, and I was hoping that Trump would throw this shutdown thing right back in their face.
I love how Rush Limbaugh calls it measly.
Yeah.
Oh, measly $1 billion.
Well, in the scheme of the budget, it is measly.
Okay,
yes.
all right. You must have that kind of loose change rolling around your sofa. Moving on, but to the point that he is unhappy, is this the beginning of problems for this president, the beginnings of a high-profile opposition?
I don't believe so. I think the Republicans and his base have a longer time horizon than we in the media do, or conservative talk radio hosts. But I do think that you look at the Rush Limbaughs of the world, the Sean Hannitys of the world, part of their job, is to hold the president accountable and remind him of his campaign promises, because when you're in D.C. and you're in the Beltway, it's easy to drift. So Limbaugh, I'm sure, would vote for Donald Trump any day over any Democrat that could be running against him in 4 years.
But look, there's already open warfare between Donald Trump and members of his own party. He went on a Twitter rant attacking the House Freedom Caucus months ago over the fact that they weren't able to repeal and replace Obamacare.
And to that point, just to add, this wasn't just about the Democrats being against this funding. Republicans were against it as well.
This is a Republican problem.
Right.
And the Republicans do have problems, particularly with the Freedom Caucus. I mean, this level of purity that some in the Freedom Caucus have is hog-tying a lot of the Republican agenda.
But I think also, like, Donald Trump recognizes it would be a bad thing optically for him to have a government shutdown on the anniversary of his 100-day mark. And I think he fundamentally understands that he needs approximately 8 Democrats to pass any funding bill through the United States Senate. You need 60 votes to get to goal. And if there is a wall element, Democrats are going to stand up against it.
I do think it's interesting to note that if the goal of the administration was to make the border more secure, arguably it is. Illegal crossings are down. I mean, the numbers are looking better. So I think you're eventually not going to see a solid wall. There's going to be strengthened portions.
You're fudging, John. You're fudging.
Well, look, if you can't get a wall, I think you have to look at what was the intent of the wall.
But the promise was the wall.
Sure.
At least we agree on that. John Thomas, Dave Jacobson, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Round 2 next hour.
Yep.
Thank you.